What is going on, everyone? Chris with Journals, Comics, Pop Culture. It is Friday. This is Friday Night Live. We're going to hang out tonight. We're going to talk shop. We're going to talk comics. And we got a Patreon Q&A, too. Peter's already here hanging out. What's going on, Peter? Whoop. Hold up. Turn that off. It's been a week, guys. I am utterly exhausted. And I pushed myself to be here today, this evening, for you guys, because that's what matters. Shadow Rat, what's going on, Shadow Rat? We got some giveaways to give away tonight as well, but I want tonight to be fun. I know I got a title, Good versus Evil. We're going to break that down, and it pertains to an actual question that was asked via a Patreon member. All right, so we'll take a few minutes, as always, to let some folks get in tonight, guys. I hope everyone has had a good week. A few updates. We will not be having a Comic Book Canon show on Sunday. For those of you Comic Book Canon fans, we're taking the weekend off. That link is still below, though, guys. Please give us a sub. We have our weekly shows over on Comic Book Canon. We're going to be back this coming Sunday, all right? Happy football season, any football fans out there. I woke up super early last Sunday. Just kidding, it wasn't super early. It was 10 a.m. But it was my one day to sleep in. 49ers starting the year off in, and what do? They just get freaking mopped up by the Bears. Chicago. So, hey, what do you say, Sky? What's going on, Sky? Thank you for making a live show. Pete Keel, bottom tier. Let me get them buds in while I work. So, let's see. No canon this week. I will be posting, for those of you that follow me on Whatnot. What's up, Pedro? I will be having a sale 2 weeks from tonight. What is that? That's September 30th. Sale will be posted probably either tonight or tomorrow on Whatnot. It's going to be an all Avenger themed show. I already have a nice stack of books ready to go. So we got a lot of Bronze Age stuff so far, but we got Avengers books, Captain America books, Iron Man books, some She-Hulk books, Hulk books. Obviously, anything that ties into Avengers. We got some Invaders, some Bronze Age Invaders books, because, of course, the Invaders had some Avengers characters as well, with Cap in there. So I'm going to be building up for that over the next 2 weeks. As always, 90% of my inventory is going to be available. Buy it now at a very, very competitive sticker price. I always guarantee that I will beat out any of the major online retailers and fair market value. So you guys have the opportunity to buy those books before the live auction even happens. But once we go live, I take one book at a time and start putting them up for auction, of course. So look for that on the Whatnot app. That sale is going to post either tonight or tomorrow. If you guys aren't following me on Whatnot, it's at Journos Comics, no underscore like everything else. And if you guys don't have the Whatnot app yet, again, that link is below. If you use that link to sign up, you will get $10 off of your first purchase from the app. Not from me, from anybody. You could go buy some sports cards or, man, they got sellers of all sorts. Now, they got like makeup sellers, perfume sellers, knick-knack sellers. So they're really opening up the marketplace. $10 off if you use the code below to sign up for Whatnot. What's going on, Tony? Matt's in the house. John! What is going on, John? Let's see. Spider Dude's hanging out. All right, couple more minutes, guys. Let me think about it. We got some books to give away today, too. I'm going to be talking about those in a quick minute. So we talked about no comic book canon. We talked about my Whatnot sale 2 weeks from tonight, September 30th. I don't have a set time yet, probably around 6 o'clock or so. What else? 12,000 subscribers, guys. We're so close. I'm going to tell you guys something real quick. And I've been contemplating this for months. And I think I'm going to do it, but I'm still not sure. But I'm thinking about doing a live show to discuss my issues with the tube right now. I don't know if I want to do it because I don't want to sound like a victim, or I don't want it to be a sob story. But I think it's important to let my audience know, my viewers, my subscriber knows. First off, one thing that I know for a fact that I will say without any hesitation, the tube is unsubscribing people from my channel left and right without them even knowing it. They're just knocking people off. I've had prominent members in this community that have been subscribed to me, and I've had long-time subscribers come to me privately and say, Chris, I wasn't seeing your videos pop up. I didn't know what was going on. I was like, oh yeah, I haven't seen a video for Journos. They go and they search Journos Comics on YouTube, and they're not subscribed to me. This is a problem. But there's a lot of other problems going on with the tube right now too that I feel the need to bring to the forefront, because I just, you guys know me, man. I mean, I'm here busting my ass almost 7 days a week, and I feel like it's unfair what's going on right now, and it has to do with algorithms. It has to do with the business of it all. And it's nothing that I'm doing. It's nothing that my viewers are doing. It's simply not right. I've actually seen YouTubers in like the gaming community, because the gaming community is big. You got the Dan TDMs and all them that have millions of subscribers, that, or even like, oh man, like the Corey Tensions and those that do the NBA, the 2K channels and stuff like that get screwed by the tube and the algorithms and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going through a real struggle right now. I'm really thinking about doing a whole stream, but all I can say right now, guys, for everyone that's here, is just keep on supporting, because I appreciate it. I wouldn't be here without you guys. But, if you see it, hit the notification bell, because it definitely helps the algorithms. Hit the like buttons, because it helps the algorithms. Leave comments when you can, even if you disagree with me. I mean, shoot, even if you just hate the video, hit the thumbs down video, because it's good for the thumbs down button, because it's good for the algorithms. Leave a comment talking crap to me. Don't be extreme with it. But if you disagree with me, etc., share the videos. Anything helps in any type of support. Of course, I'm always going to appreciate. Christopher Johnson, so glad to see you here tonight, Chris. What's up, everybody? I'm blessed to be back and listening. Still catching up with the real world. Well, happy that you're here. I hope you got your package. If not today, well, depending on where you are, you should probably get it tomorrow. Jay Ward's hanging out. P Kills. I'm permanently banned from Twitter. I'll share my posts to Twitter, like, anytime I drop a video, I'll share it on Twitter. But I don't bother with Twitter. I never have, even when I was doing the music and Twitter was the big thing back then. Like, I just don't even like the interface. I mean, it's crappy. I'm good. Let's see. We got Peter Thornton. I say what's up to Peter. Louis Logics. Good to hear, Louis. I mean, yeah, if you guys are getting notifications. Red Knight. What's going on? Algorithms. All right, guys. So let's talk about the prizes we're going to be giving away tonight. We got 2 Torpedo Comic signature books, exclusive certified COAs from Torpedo. We got Superman number 80 signed by Brett Breeding. This is going to one of my awesome channel members. And I know we have some channel members in the house tonight right now. Oh, and for those that won my last YouTube channel member giveaway and Patreon giveaway, those books just went out this week. I know sometimes it takes me a little while, but I promise I always get them out to you guys. This is going to be going to a channel member. This is going to be announced shortly here. And then for the Patreon giveaway for September, we got Valkyries number 2 signed by Jason Aaron. There it is right there. Look at that beautiful cover. Again, both Torpedo exclusives with the COA. So we're going to be going over these in a minute. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to do Patreon Q&A tonight, and we're going to get to a question that has to do with good versus evil. So if you guys are here to hear me talk about good versus evil, we're going to get through a couple of Q&A questions first, all right? Simon, what is going on, Simon? All right, what we're going to do first is we're going to get to our first question, Q&A question. Then I'm going to do the member-only giveaway, all right? But let's get one question out of the way. We're going to bring this up here. I got to find it. I got to find the post with all the questions. And guys, if you guys are interested in becoming either channel member for only $1.99 a month, you guys can click the join button below. You do get early access to some videos. I try to at least do a couple videos a month for early access. And, I do a giveaway at least every other month. I'm trying to do a every month, once a month giveaway. And that goes for Patreon members too. You guys get a little more perks there. Of course, you get the monthly Q&A, Patreon only Q&A. You get early access, often drop Patreon only and member only tips of the day. And then, of course, we do the giveaways there. So let me pull up. These are August questions. So after tonight, we are going to be doing, or I'm going to be posting in my Patreon page, September's Q&A form for you guys to start asking questions for this month. All right, here we go, guys. Let's get to one question off top. And Peter, who is here right now, Peter asked the question. So big shout out to Peter Thornton. Peter asked, hey, Chris, on the topic of parting with some of your collection, we know that there are runs and keys that you will not be selling. That's damn straight. But out of the stuff you have decided to sell, what are the books that you will miss the most if they sell? All right, Peter, great question. Let me answer this real quick. Let me just say this. I've been working my butt off. I barely have grabbed any books out of my PC yet. I've grabbed doubles. That's all I've done. I've grabbed doubles, and I'm not missing any of those because they're doubles. So, and while I'm doing this, I'm still buying collections to sell for my business, right? So I still have more inventory coming in to sell. The plan to sell a good chunk of my PC is still happening, though. I'm a one-man team, and I don't sell comics full time. I try to do a sell on Whatnot every other week. And just to let you guys all know, I actually took on another part-time job. I'm back being a sports director at the same school that I'm teaching at, but it's the assistant sports director, so it's only a couple hours a day. It's not the full-time one that I was working before COVID hit, but I'm picking up that now because I need more income and more money. So I'm working my educator job. I'm working that job part-time. I'm working YouTube full-time. I'm selling comic books part-time. I'm a parent of 2 teenagers. So it's a lot. So it's getting to a lot. So Peter, I really don't know yet because, I haven't gotten to that aspect of this is something that I really think I want to hold on to, but I need to get rid of, hasn't hit me yet. But when it does, I'll be sure to let you guys know for sure. Dan's here. What's going on, Dan? Circumstances. What is up? Oh, right on, Chris. I'm glad to hear that. Oh, nice. Push forward. Yeah, or stay stagnant. That is a fact. Awesome. Peter, great question. All right, guys. We're going to get into the good and evil topic of discussion. But we got a couple more questions, I think. And then right now, let's give away the member only giveaway. So what I do is I run all of the names in random.org, and I do a randomizer, and whoever's on top wins. All right, so this is for my YouTube channel members. Superman number 80, signed by Brett Breeding with the Torpedo Comics COA. So again, to my YouTube channel members, thank you guys so much for the continued support. Brandon's here. What's going on, Brandon? We got a winner of this one, and who will it be? Dun, dun, dun. This month's YouTube channel member winner is Come on. Oh, there it is. Ariel Red. I didn't mean that to be a ticker across the bottom of the screen, but it is. Ariel Red, you've been a YouTube channel member for a while. I don't know if you're here today, if you're watching this on the rewind, but if you hear this, reach out to me. Shoot me an email, Captain Journo Comics. That's Journo with no S. Captain Journo Comics at gmail.com. Or find me on Instagram at Journos_comics, because I want to be able to send this book out to you. Thank you so much for the continued support. Happy to give this book a new home. Ariel Red, thank you, thank you, thank you. Truly appreciate you. All right, guys. Next up, wrong ticker there. All right, next up, let's get to another Patreon question. X11 always asks a good mix of questions. And all my Patreon members that are here right now, guys and gals, please don't hesitate to ask questions, and as many as you want. I want more people involved in this every month. I love answering your questions. And when we do these streams publicly, it gives a lot of context and knowledge and conversation to be had with everybody that's hanging out. So X11, your first question. Chris, do you seriously have no shadow books in your PC? X11, I don't know what, if you like assumed that I didn't, but I absolutely have shadow books in my PC. I don't have a lot, but I know I have Shadow number 1 from the Bronze Age DC, the 20-cent one. Amazing artwork on that run, by the way. And I know I have a few others from that run. And I think I have a couple that are from I think the late 80s, like maybe it was mini series. I don't know. So it's only a handful, but I do have some. I think I have some Batman and Shadow. Remember they did that limited series, maybe 5 years ago now or something like that. So there's a few. Oh no. Oh man, Brandon. Well, I hate to hear that with your job, but it sounds like you're back on your feet doing something that maybe you love. My dad was a lifetime welder straight out of the Army himself. And when there was a downturn in the early 90s, and he got laid off from multiple jobs, and he ended up starting his own welding business. So awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. I used to go to the shop and help out. We used to sand down pieces and blocks. All right, guys. X11 has another question here before we get to the good versus evil. It's coming. X11 asks, Chris, what is your favorite first-person shooter video game? What was your first video game console? Do you game with your crib midgets? Man, okay. 3-part question. I'll answer the second one first. What was my first video game console? I'm going to help answer that question for you guys. Sorry, guys. Do I have? Oh, shoot, I don't have any right here. Damn it. Damn. I don't have any. That's all stored somewhere else. I got some of my Sega Genesis games in my NES games back here. Okay. My first ever video game console. I was 5 years old, and it was Christmas. Marvel Goddess, what's going on? Christmas morning, and it was me and my brother. My brother's 2 years older than me. And we wake up, and I remember waking up, and we would always have to sit. We would go and, there'd be some things in our stocking that we could go pull out. And then we wait for my parents to get up, and we would go sit and open the gifts. And we opened up an Atari 2600. And I remember popping it in on the old wood grain frame TV, and taking the joystick out we got Miss Pac-Man and Moon Patrol. It was those were the two games that came with it. I don't remember if they were like included as a package or they bought them separately. But yeah, we got Atari 2600 with Miss Pac-Man and Moon Patrol, and I remember sitting there that Christmas morning playing Miss Pac-Man and Moon Patrol. Boop beep, boop beep. I still remember the beeps, the everything. That was like one of the best Christmases I ever had. And yeah, I mean, look, and what was funny about that time was everyone else was getting Nintendos. You know, everyone else was getting Nintendos for their birthdays and for Christmas. My cousin had both cousins. My cousins on my dad's side had the Nintendos. My cousins on my mom's side had the Nintendo. So we always go to their house to play Nintendo. But I was very happy just to have an Atari, man. And you know that, and I still have my Atari. Unfortunately, the console, like something happened with the wiring to where it won't turn on anymore. So maybe one day I'll go get it fixed. But that was my first console. I did get a my brother and I did get a Sega Genesis later on when we were old, like in middle school. And then I saved up money when I was in high school. I saved up money to get a Nintendo 64. And then, I mean, currently I have a system that has a slot for Super NES, NES, and Sega Genesis. And I have a bunch of old games for all the systems in that. Now, do I game with my crib midgets? Not as much anymore. I'm going to be honest, guys. I just don't have maybe it's like ADD. Maybe it's the fact that I just have as an adult so much going on in my life because I work so much and then I'm exhausted. I don't have the ability to sit in front of a game. And these games are all story games now. It's not like hop in front of a screen and shoot some ducks with Duck Hunt or go-kart with, Mario Kart or something like that. It's like, I'm not big on like the story stuff. It's like, I want to get and play a game. If I wanted a story, I could watch a movie, so I tried playing a lot of the sports games. A few years back, I did a whole season of Madden. I think it was like Madden 20 or Madden 19, and I won the Super Bowl. I really got into that, man. I really did. And then there was a couple years there where I played a lot of Minecraft with my kids, and I loved it, man. I really got hooked on Minecraft. And to be honest, I wish I would have played more with them while they were younger. But it was tough for me during that time. I was still going to school, working, and as a parent, I'm going to tell you guys, man, I know we feel exhausted often, but we got to make the time and energy, even if it's just sitting there listening to them, because it goes by. So it's not even a cliche. It really is. I mean, my kids were little babies, and now my oldest is about to be 18 in 9 months. I can't believe it. And it goes by so fast, and it's something that you can't get back that time. So, man, if they're asking you, oh, Dad, come play video games, like, go freaking take your ass and sit down and play video games with them, because you won't get it back. And that's real. No matter how tired you are, man, even if you're tired and it's just sitting there listening to them, while they talk and share their experiences. That's my advice to you guys. Now, to the last question, what is my favorite first-person shooter game? I did get into Destiny for a little bit there, but GoldenEye, man, GoldenEye. GoldenEye. Nothing. GoldenEye. Well, actually, it probably started with Doom. I remember having a little old PC, and we got the Doom disc to play on the PC, and Doom was it, man. But GoldenEye on Nintendo 64 brought it all to the next level. And I remember going to, when we weren't, smoking, drinking, robbing, and stealing, and doing dumb ish. We were sitting there, we were probably still smoking and drinking, but we were inside having, 4-man, competitions in GoldenEye. So GoldenEye was the game, man. Hands down, hands down. And I think I told it before, but I'm hella mad because I saved up my money to buy my Nintendo 64 with all those games, and I sold them all for like a freaking 20 bag of weed and some knockoff camo Tims. What a joke. What a joke I was. But hey, that's being a freaking dumb, young and dumb teenager doing dumb ish. I didn't care. Anyways, man. Anyway, so great question again. In television, always playing Burger Time. Nice. So, guys, we have a question that's going to be really important to the live stream today, and it comes from X11. And it's about good versus evil, but I'm gonna answer one more question before we get into that one. And this is from awesome friend of the channel, Sagi. Sagi says, I find that I value first appearance keys way more than first appearance in comic style types. Maybe you do a vid sometimes on the best Star Wars characters to invest in that originated in comics. Get us a head start over the next Black Chrysanthemum. So, Sagi, I hear you. Like there is it's not really a question, but more of a suggestion. You know, you get movie properties like Star Wars that take these characters that are introduced in film and then they show up in comics later on. I get it. It's definitely different. And we're actually coming to a point, though, with Star Wars where you're getting so much live action properties that you got characters that were introduced in comic books first. And now they're showing up in live action. So the platform is switching, right? And that's one thing that I think is bringing a lot of comic collectors and Star Wars heads back into the comic books looking for these first appearances of these Star Wars characters, because there's something to seeing a comic book character that we see for the first time on pages, drawn and a part of these stories. And then we see them come to life on the big screen in live action. There's something to that we gravitate more to. Well, oh, look, we see Luke Skywalker and Yoda. Oh, and now they're showing up in a comic book. It is different. I get it. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's a lot of Star Wars stuff to be talked about right now. And maybe I will do some affordable Star Wars books to not only just invest in, but to get educated on first appearances to look out for. And again, a lot of them probably will be first appearances in the comic books that'll then show up in some of these TV shows or even future movies. GT Key Comics, what's going on? All right, guys. We got one more giveaway to do. We're gonna do this giveaway, and we got more questions to ask, but that's gonna come after this nice big topic of discussion that we're going to talk about right now, and it comes from an X11 question. And he asks, X11 asks, Chris, ultimately, who really wins in the battle of good versus evil? Here it is, guys. Who really wins in the battle of good versus evil? Let me start out by saying this. When we talk about comic books, we think it's so cliche. I mean, in any good story, especially adventures and adventure stories, action stories, antagonists and protagonists, good versus evil, it's the cliche. We have villains and heroes. But to me, in life, as it transcends into comic books too, it is not simply about good versus evil. It's not. If you talk about real life, to me, there's a very small parameter around what is truly evil. And I'll put in like anybody that hurts children, like child abusers, like rapists, serial killers, rapists, of course, of women too, serial killers, child abusers, rapists. There is a very small, there's a lot of it out there, obviously. But I think everything else is a matter of the duality of our humanity, so to say. And if you actually look at a lot of the good storytelling within comic books, it isn't just that black and white either. And I think, again, we really got to give it to Stan Lee. All right. Because there's something about here he comes to save the day, which a lot of it was in the early days, especially if you go into the golden age. And even with Superman started as kind of a symbol of something that represented something bigger in real life. But day-to-day comic books, his day-to-day stories was like, or his everyday stories was him battling, somebody's robbing a bank. Same with Batman. He was a normal little detective solving crimes from like mobsters and things like that. The depth of the characters weren't there. When you get Stan Lee coming into the game and doing what he did, especially with Spider-Man, and looking at a young kid, like inheriting, not wanting to inherit, but just inheriting superpowers, and given a responsibility in how right away in the first story we ever saw Spider-Man in AF-15, we saw that great responsibility, power comes great responsibility right away. I've been given responsibility with these powers. What are the repercussions of how I use them or don't use them? And we saw that with the death of Uncle Ben. Right away, Stan Lee came in and said, we're going to ground these stories, and we're not just it's not just going to be good versus evil. Hero comes and saves the day. It's going to flesh out the duality of everything that we face as human beings in that more Kantian understanding of what does it mean to be moral? What does it mean to have ethics? And where do we draw the line? At what point do our sins become simply a product of a circumstance, or a product of our conscious free will, so to say? And I'm getting deep here, but hey, man, look, it's in comics. You get into Shakespearean philosophy, and if you look at a lot of Shakespeare's stories, again, the tale of tragedy isn't the tale of good and evil. It's the tale of our vulnerability as human beings and how we become corrupted, victims of circumstance, victims of passion, the duality that exists inside of us. So when we talk about good versus evil, and again, let's go back to the question here. Who really wins in the battle of good and evil? I think so, like, if we really believe that any battle we fight is simply that black and white, no good will ever win. No good will ever win. Because then what happens? Then we become holier than thou. Let he without sin cast the first stone. And I bring up a Bible quote So let's go to religion. And I'm not going to disrespect anybody's religion, but this is the flaw of man. And I don't care if you're Christian. I wear St. Christopher. I was raised in a Catholic family. My grandma's St. Christopher. I wear around my neck. It never comes off of me. Never. Even when I die, this ain't coming off of me unless they burn my ashes with it on me. Religion has allowed us to say, well, this is a battle of good and evil, therefore I am good. Meaning, if I go to church and pray to God or Allah and simply confess my sins, I rid the responsibility of guilt, and therefore I am good. And that's where I draw the line, because too many people think that they can just go to church on Sunday and say, praise God, hallelujah, praise Allah Akbar, and come out of the church or the mosque and go back and judge. But yet we are not holding our own actions accountable. We are not holding ourselves accountable to this idea that we are simply good. But see, that's man. That's the distortion of man, because even in religion, I don't think the concept was that we have to be holier than thou. You know what I'm saying? That's not even the belief's fault, the teaching's fault. That's man and how we distort it. Because the idea of us all being sinners right there proves the point that we are not all just good or / evil. We have to understand. See, it's not about just saying, oh, well, I confessed my sins, therefore I'm good, I'm going to heaven, I'm God in God's eyes. No, it's about understanding that we are all flawed, and it's not only about us, right? Understanding that we are all quote unquote sinners and that we are all flawed and we all make some mistakes isn't just about saving our souls. It's about compassion and the ability to not judge others. That's what it's about. Jesus himself. Jesus didn't sit in a church and preach the word of God and then walk out those doors pointing fingers and saying, sinner, sinner, sinner. No. He walked with the thieves. He walked with the prostitutes. He walked with the sinners and said, I understand. Let me help heal you. And what happened to him? Man said, nope, nope. You ain't going to tell him how it really is. So they crucified him. Because for so long, man distorts this idea of good versus evil. And keep in mind, everyone, I'm using, religion is the metaphor. And for me, I don't tend to one specific religion. I think there is truth in all religions, and I think there is corruption and man-made distortion in all religions. I believe in a spiritual practice, to each their own. I believe in a higher power energy, but I'm basically just using it as an example that too often or not, we force this idea of good versus evil. And it allows us to stand on pedestals, and it allows us to not really fight what is supposedly true evil. Most evil is not true evil, and not all good is always good. So for me, the way that we fight the battle of good versus evil is first and foremost, let he without sin cast the first stone. We stop casting stones, right? That's why so often in comic books, we see the duality. Look at just the understanding of what the storyline of the X-Men, the foundation of the X-Men, a lot of that being built on the social rights movement, et cetera, et cetera. Like, products of your environment, for one. Magneto and Professor X's dynamic, and having empathy towards becoming a product of your environment and a product of what this world could do to someone until they push back and sometimes become that in which they hate. Magneto was he had the same cause. He wanted to fight for the same cause that Professor X did. But he was pushed so far that he became that in which he hated. So he became the evil, so to say, in which he was trying to fight against. And then you blur the line. So when the X-Men would fight the Brotherhood of Mutants and Magneto, like, are they truly fighting evil? I think the real fight is more of the fight trying to get everyone to understand how to unify each other instead of fight amongst each other or against each other. And I think you see that a lot in comic books. You see it a lot, like, whether it's the redemption stories. And this is the one thing that I liked about the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, right? And not that we need to have sympathy for every villain, right? I mean, some people are just crazy, serial killers, but you look at, and it took from the comic books too, but I thought they did it very well in those movies. Like, it wasn't drawn out, it was clear. Norman Oswell, power corrupts and basically drugs corrupts. And you see what that did to Norman, and then eventually what it did to his son. And that was pulled straight from the comics. And you can use the Goblin Serum as drugs. That's some real life ish right there. I really like what they did with Otto Octavius, though, which I think, especially early on in the comics, Otto was more of just a very, very megalomania narcissist, right? But in Spider-Man 2, they showed the redemption. Like, this is the man that had very strong moral convictions that, and again, you talk about corruption, the corruption of man. Sandman was a good story because he wanted to help his daughter, and he just got caught up in that goes to real world stuff. And I've seen it in environments that I grew up in. People don't have choices, and people get corrupted by products of their environment. Nature versus nurture. Absolutely bottom tier for sure. Mr. Freeze, that's another one. Absolutely. So, you got to look at these dynamics and understand we have layers. And I think when you want to get, if we get into the metaphysical conversation of it all, and you look at like the yin and the yang, right? The balance, dark and the light, there is no light without darkness, and vice versa. When we believe that it's as black and white as good versus evil, that's when we get into situations like the Winter Soldier, totalitarian dictatorships that want to live in a, dystopian environment where, you know, you base the foundations of this hierarchy where we are going to eliminate evil before it happens. You can't do that. You can't do that. So we go back to Kantian philosophy, and we have to simply do our best to understand what is right or wrong, but to understand that we are human beings and we are flawed to the capacity of our own understandings of right or wrong. And from there, we have to do our best to understand the balance. And I think it just comes down to the fact that doing good simply means I do my best to act outside of myself in a way that won't hurt other people. Because a lot of evil ends up being selfishness. You see, even in comic books, greed, and in real life, politics, corruption, big business, greed, jealousy, corruption, envy, all of those things come from being selfish, only caring about self. And when we do that, that's when we, end up becoming the so-called villain in terms of our ambitions of what we want in life or what these fictional characters want in comic books. And if you look at the superheroes that stay good, they're always battling that, like, am I good because of self gratification, like ego? And you look at the dynamic of Tony Stark. And I think that played out well in the comic book Civil War and in the Civil War film. But then you look at Spider-Man, who's always selfless, right? So that's why Superman is one of my favorite superheroes. Spider-Man is one of my favorite superheroes because he takes that selfless approach to where, he's not doing good to necessarily be on this holier than thou pedestal. He really cares about other people, and therefore he's always on himself. But even that dynamic is flawed because, I mean, what am I trying to say here? Like, there could be a God complex there as well, because you end up thinking that you need to save everyone. Good and evil is not black and white. And that's what it boils down to. And it boils down to selflessness and compassion in ridding the world, or the fictional world, of ego. Joseph says, if a UFO landed and made first contact, our social constructs would be tested. How important would comic books be then, or man-made constructs that we have created? I guess it depends on what type of contact aliens make. I mean, it depends on how much our worlds are open up too, because I believe these social constructs protect us. I think that's why a lot of people hold in hatred or biases, or because we don't want to let go of our of these social construct and cultural biases, because then we would have to question everything that we grounded ourselves in our reality. Cats rule. They do. I have 3 cats. Love rules over all. Absolutely. Very good point on Lobo. I haven't read enough Lobo to really understand the character. I want to bring this up because, yeah, the people that argue, yep, and I disagree, because to me, in the comic books and in the movie, even though his ambitions were different in the films, right? In the MCU, it was always out of ego. It was always ego. It wasn't out of selflessness. So no. And what did I say? What did I say? Do it like, oh, we need to rid the world of evil before it happens, right? No, you don't. When you start hurting other people is where you draw that line. Nothing is good if it hurts other people. Now, we could do things that hurt other people, though, and still be not inherently evil as long as we learn from it. So, the light and the dark, we have to embrace them all. We have to embrace both sides. Chris, Chris, they gave Thanos a good storyline. Like, terrorists think they're doing the yeah, and it's crazy. And yeah, I mean, we can. I mean, and there's different forms of terror. I mean, we terrorize each other in many different ways, and oftentimes we make excuses behind it. DJ, all right on, man. I'm glad you got your package. So, guys, if you guys have anything else to ask or add to the good and evil conversation, please do so. But we do have some more questions to ask tonight. And we got a few more questions to get to, is basically what I was trying to say. A few more questions to answer tonight. And we have a giveaway to get to, okay? But man, X11 with the questions this month, doing it. X11 has one more. And X11 asks, Chris, who would you say has been the absolute biggest positive influence in your life? I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that if you want to talk about, I'm putting family aside for a minute. But, you know, I've talked about it on my channel before. Tupac has been the biggest influence in my life outside of family. We'll talk about family. But I you know, when people may think I'm fanboying just because he was a famous figurehead, but it's not that, man. I'm not just over here like trying to, you know, ride the coattails of a famous rapper. Tupac saved my life. Saved my life. I had two moments. I'm going to be candid with you guys right now. I've said this before about, you know, my teenage years and spiraling down a dark black hole. My best friend, the greatest human being I've ever known. Well, you know what? I could say him too. I'm gonna say him too. He's another one. But we'll get to that in a minute. Chris Edwards, rest in peace. 13 years old. That shook my world. I lost a good handful of friends over the next 5 years from age 13 to 18. Senseless violence and murders. And I was in a really dark place, and I would have ended up there as well. Dead or in jail, whatever it may have been. And I was a lucky one to have woke up from that. I had two moments where I woke up from my slumber, so to say. One of them was I tripped off of acid, guys. I took some acid, you know, LSD. I never did any like you know, white drugs. I was drinking. I would drink every night. I'd pass out. I'd wake up in somebody's random front yard or in a curb somewhere on the block. I remember one time I passed out on top of a gas station roof. It was mad crazy. You know, smoked a lot of weed. A normal night would be like, you know, blunts, a 40 ounce of OE, and a bottle of gin or Hennessy or something. And it was just all a blur, man, and a lot of other crazy stuff, like, you know, caught my first case at age 15, felony case. So I remember when I was 16, I dropped some acid and I tripped hella hard, like out of my mind hard. And I don't take this the wrong way, like I'm telling you guys to go to any type of drug, but like I had what you call a bad trip. And so much comes to you, or so much came to me that night. And I remember I like was living through all of my trauma. And I'm 16. Keep this in mind. And I remember going in the bedroom. And I had a magazine with Tupac in it. And it was like open up to this like full page spread of just a Tupac picture. And I went and I was sitting up in there against the bed, and this magazine was on the floor. And I looked at this picture, man, and he talked to me. Like no lie. I mean, not like that, man. You know, I was tripping balls on acid, but it was very much like a spiritual thing, because in my distorted view of my reality being on freaking, you know, and keep in mind, guys, like I'm not completely against like psychedelics, like, you know, microdosing and shrooms and all that stuff. But first off, acid is dirty. Like LSD on tabs, especially these days, is cut with, you know, meth and bathroom cleaners and probably fentanyl these days. So I hope you guys ain't touching nothing. You know, it ain't worth touching. I don't smoke weed anymore either. But if you guys are smoking weed, man, go to the pharmacies, man, because you know, even people are dropping fentanyl on freaking herb these days. It ain't even worth it, man. It ain't. But I had a moment where, like, I heard Tupac in my head, and it woke me up on so many levels. And in that same trip, I had an out-of-body trip to where, like, I thought I was dead. Crazy-ish, right? So I came out of that like shell-shocked. Like I like didn't go to the block for a quick minute. I was like, I can't, I gotta stop smoking weed. I gotta stop drinking. But what happens? You fall right back into it, right? You fall right back into it. And I was right back doing the same stuff. Now that night stuck with me, don't get me wrong. But then about a year later, I was going into my senior year of high school. And it was another night. I was high as off weed, you know. I was sitting, I didn't have a vehicle at the time. I was sitting in the homie's vehicle on the block by myself. Everyone was kicking it on the block with, you know, with the girls and doing all that. And I was like, I had my freaking whatever drink I had, and I was sitting there rolling blunts in the car, smoking by myself, listening to Tupac. And it was the song Hellraiser. If you guys know this song, it was an unreleased song that was released after Tupac's death in 1997 on the Are You Still Down double album. Mama raise a Hellraiser, stress getting major, Lord be my savior. Born thugging, heartless and mean, mugging at 16. Hit the scene, bugging. All right, so in this song, though, he's talking about this girl, Latasha, who got murdered at a liquor store, going and trying to buy. She was like 13. She went into this liquor store in LA to buy an apple juice. And the clerk, this young little black girl, this clerk, thought she was stealing, pulled out a shotgun and killed her. And he says in the song, they killed Latasha, now scream up the world. You know, when he's going in and just like, as Tupac always did, and I'm sitting there, and it's not that I didn't hear him before, because I always did. I listened to Tupac since I was 12 years old, 11. Well, how old was I? 11 years old when his second album came out. And he always touched me and hit me, but it just hit different that night. And again, it spoke to me, and I had to wake up. And that time, I really did wake up. I woke up, and it still took me a little time. My senior year of high school, I started finally trying to pay attention in school, had to take more summer school classes to actually graduate. And I left that environment. I stopped kicking in on the block. I stopped being around that, stopped freaking stealing and all that stupid stuff. And that's when I started living by the idea of Tupac's comment saying, I'm not saying I'm gonna change the world, but I guarantee I will spark the brain to change the world. If it wasn't for his influence, I don't believe I'd be alive today. And that is it's fact. It's fact. Fact. If I would be alive, I'd be in jail. I wouldn't have kids, or I would have ended up in jail and would have came out and not lasted or went back, whatever the case may be. Tupac's music saved my life. I never met him, but I had the opportunity to meet some of his family throughout the years, and network and break bread and make music with the Outlaws, his group, which has been a huge blessing. And so in terms of somebody outside of my circle, that's my biggest influence. I mean, no, my life, man. Next up, biggest influence on my life. It's hard for me to put, like, I gotta talk about my parents. Obviously, I was grateful to grow up. I grew up, Sicilian families are big, we got a million cousins. So I grew up with my mom and my dad and my grandma. And my dad worked constantly. My mom worked 2 jobs. So they were like hardly ever home. They still made time for us. Like on the weekends, they would always do the best to like go do something as a family on the weekend. And they always gave us what we needed. Like I felt like my childhood was just the best because I had that love and support. But, when I had a male figure, my father is not perfect, but like, he's very hardened and like hard-headed old school generation. But at the same time, coming from the generation, he was a very sensitive man as well. And he taught me how to be sensitive as a man. And that's important because to me, masculinity, being sensitive is a strength because we live in a world where we have a false idea of what it means to be a man and what it means to be masculine. So for any man out there, don't ever see sensitivity as a weakness because you're lying to yourself. To be able to be vulnerable and be sensitive is one of the biggest strengths that you could carry in your life. It'll be a strength for your significant other. It'll be a strength for your children, boy or girl. But I really got to talk about my grandma because my grandma is an immigrant, came from nothing. My grandma, her parents gave her up as a child, and she was raised in an orphanage, in a Catholic orphanage. Thankfully, like my grandma passed 5 years ago now at the age of, she was 95, basically. She was just turning 95. And she had dementia like the last 5 years of her life. She didn't remember her face. She didn't remember us. It's heartbreaking. But my grandma was the glue, man. But my grandma, before she started losing her, her mind from the dementia, she actually started writing her life story down. And she would tell so many stories about being in the orphanage, and like if they did something wrong, they had to sleep on the concrete floor with just a blanket with no pillow. And they would make it if they had an accident, if they peed the sheets, they would force them to sleep in the peed sheets for a week at a time. It's mad crazy, man. And to know that my grandmother came from that and went through everything she went, raising 5 children on her. And, you know, my grandfather, who, you know, fought in World War II, he actually drove a tank on the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. And I love saying that, man. It makes me super proud. But my grandpa had his flaws, man. He left my grandmother with 5 kids all by herself. And although they reconciled, you know, he moved back to the neighborhood. And although they reconciled their differences and he was there to help the kids later on, like my grandma didn't deserve that, man. But she never flinched. And then those 5 kids had dozens of kids. And as a grandmother, like, as we called her, our nanny. And I, you know, when she passed and I wrote something to say at her funeral, I said, like, I didn't know nanny was like a nickname of somebody who watches kids until I was like 8 years old. Because to me, nanny was her, my nanny, you know? And this woman had been through so much. She battled cancer and when she was in her 80s and beat that because she knew she needed to be here for her great grandkids. And she never placed judgment on nobody. My grandmother was 83 years old and I was coming home telling her stories about Tupac. And she'd sit there and listen. So there's something there to say about the strength of that woman and what she means to me. And, you know, I always got to put her on that pedestal because she, in so many ways, made me who I am. That's why I never want, as a rapper in my music, I never once degraded a woman. And believe me, I've been through things with women, man. You know, I'll call myself a feminist at heart, but you know, hey, human beings can be ugly, and I've been treated this way and that way, but you know, that's why I hold women to my morals and ethics. I've never made one song degrading a woman, never. But yeah, man. And then from there, lastly, I know this was a long answer to this question, but people that influenced my life, man. My best friend ever, Chris Edwards, that we lost when we were just 13. This kid was the most loving, generous soul ever. Grew up without a father, single black mother, raising 2 kids. You know, so he could have fallen to the stereotypes in so many ways, but he didn't. And I can't even begin. You talk about like an old soul and what he meant to me as my brother, because he was my brother. And to lose him made me stop believing in God. Like, why? Take me. Why am I still here? But if you guys want to know why I'm so vocal about how we treat each other, like on social media and YouTube, you guys want to know why, you know, when that little drama kicked off with the C2E2 stuff, and I came out and said, stop just jumping on social media and being counterproductive and making memes and bullying people and forgetting that people are humans and calling them clowns and acting like children. Because first off, I seen people murdered for doing that. Secondly, this is why. Because I seen the most caring and loving human being lose their life at the age of 13. And here we are, middle-aged men now, we can't goddamn act right. So you wonder why I hold myself to such high standards of how we treat each other. I'm tired. That's why I'm so tired of it, man. X11, those are the people that have influenced me and that have made me who I am. And I continue, through all my flaws and all, I continue to try to strive to be better because of their influence in my life. So thank you so much for that question. That was a really long answer. All right, guys, we got a few more questions. We got a giveaway to get to. Justin Marshall, Raising Elm Comics. Who are your favorite comic book artists through each era? Golden, Silver Age, Bronze, etc. Okay. I'm not big enough on Golden Age stuff to sit here and say I have a favorite artist from the Golden Age. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. Silver Age, John Romita Sr., hands down. Hands down. Bronze Age, Sal Buscema, hands down. You could throw John in there too. I like them both. I'm going to go with early modern, like 90s. Late 80s to 90s, or excuse me, Copper. Copper. I'm talking about Copper here. Man, this is a tough one for me between Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane. I mean, I think overall you got to give it to Todd McFarlane. That's why I call him the modern day, Jack Kirby. But for me as an artist, he influenced me so much, Jim Lee. So I got to go with Jim Lee, man. That's mine. So we got JR Sr., we got Sal, and his brother John. I'll throw him in there. And then we got Jim Lee for me for Copper Age. Modern. I got to say Alex Ross. Alex Ross epitomizes the cover era, if that's what we call it. What this guy has been able to do with cover comic book art. I don't think there would be your Del Ottos or your Clayton Cranes. Do I dare say his name right now with all that controversy? The Inyuk Lees. We wouldn't have those artists, I don't think, if we didn't have Alex Ross setting the tone and doing what he did. Keith, what's going on, Keith? Those are my top favorite artists from every era. Oh, Chris, thank you, man. Thank you so much for the super chat. That's why I like watching your videos. We have the same ideals when it comes to that. Your whole message is just comics. Thank you, Chris. Chris to Chris, man. I really, really appreciate you, Chris, and the super chat, and just for being a channel member too for so long as well. And just being here live and being a part of the conversation in the community and hanging out, man. We got to hang out and network and connect as human beings in any way we possibly can these days. And I appreciate you guys. Bottom tier. Yep, absolutely. Hey, that's true too. That's that inherent value or that intrinsic value that I talk about, man. All right, we have a couple more questions before we get to the Patreon giveaway, guys. Justin Marshall, to kind of piggyback off of X11's question about Shadow, do you seriously not have any James Bond comics? Are there James Bond comics, guys? Are there James Bond comic books? I don't have any James Bond comic books. About 25,000 comic books. I don't have a James Bond comic book. I didn't know there were any. Verified asks your thoughts on pre-code horror. Pre-code horror, I think, are absolute treasures. I've said this before, I'll say it again. My whole life, I've never been like a real horror fan. Movies, books, except for Goosebumps. I love reading the R.L. Stine Goosebumps books growing up. I don't know why. I was never really into horror anywhere else, but really love those books. I didn't get into horror comic books until maybe 2015-16, where I was started picking up some Tomb of Dracula books and some Werewolf by Night books. And it wasn't even really the story that appeased me. It was the art. There was something about that Bronze Age art of the horror genre that started appealing to me. And that's what got me looking at horror comic books. And I think when you go back to pre-code horror, even just with the art, I mean, the art was there. The art was already there. And there is something to be said about the imagery. I think even in some of the, golden age, like, more like detective covers, you saw some of that come out, where you would just that darker element for its time really mixed well with the art of that time. Like, we didn't, and nothing was digitized, and, we had to use, ink, actual ink, right? The idea of pre-code is very important to collectors as well. Not necessarily, important to me as a collector, but it means something because it's almost like a lost art. This art of storytelling within comic books was halted. It was ripped from its roots, and who knows what it would have been if that never would have happened. But I think because it did happen, it adds more to the mythos of the pre-code horror. Like, it makes it even more collectible. It makes it even more nostalgic. So I think there's always going to be that demand there, as well as just the horror genre itself. And I think it's something like that. I don't know if I will ever be big myself on collecting into that type of comic book, but the appeal is there for so many reasons that I don't think will ever go away. Bottom tier. Oh my goodness. We will beware. Oh man. All right, guys. That is the questions for today, but we have an awesome giveaway to give to one lucky Patreon member, guys. And again, it is this Valkyries, the Mighty Valkyries #2, signed by Jason Aaron. Beautiful cover here. And as always, I do a randomizer. I do have the 2 tiers for Patreon members. So anytime I do a contest for my Patreon members, if you have the high tier, you get double entry into the randomizer to all of my giveaways. So we did the randomizer and we picked a winner. I think we got some a few. Thank you. Oh, I just saw this, Dan. Thank you. Oh, Tony, thank you for the super. I just saw this, Tony. We're going to get to that in a minute. Great question, by the way, because I'm a big baseball fan. Hold tight, Tony. Thank you. All right, guys, here we go. To all of my Patreon members. And remember, guys, we're going to be doing the next Q&A questions. They're going to post, the forum's going to post tonight or tomorrow for you guys to answer, for you Patreon members to ask questions for next month's stream. And then I'll get another prize picked out for both YouTube channel members and for my Patreon members. Okay, here we go. The next giveaway winner for my Patreon contest, this awesome Mighty Valkyries number 2, signed by Jason Aaron with the Torpedo Comics Certificate of Authenticity, is none other than Patreon member Simon. Simon, are you still here, Simon? You were in the chat earlier. I got a little story to tell. Congrats, Simon. Let me know if you are here, Simon. Let me get some water real quick. Simon's here. I'm spilling water everywhere. It's not going in my mouth. All right, this is a cool thing. Simon has never won a I don't think, Simon, you've never, have you ever won a, I think you won, I think you did, what did you, I don't think you've ever won a Patreon giveaway. Have you ever won a Patreon giveaway, Simon? Did you win a I don't know. I'm thinking that you might have won something once. I don't, maybe not. Maybe I'm just hallucinating. I know that Simon has donated a lot to so many giveaways and causes over the years in this community. Simon's never won. So here's the fun thing about this. So, this is Simon's first time winning. Simon was my first ever patron member. When I signed up for Patreon, Simon was the first ever member to join. You won a slab in the Whatnot app. Sweet. Right. So Simon was my first ever patron, and he's still hanging strong, still supporting it for that, Simon. I really, really appreciate you. You know, for who you are as a human being, and you know, your contribution to this community in so many ways, supporting so many different people and other, not even like people like me sitting in front of a camera, but you know, other real human beings that are just a part of this community. So I'm very happy to see you take home a Patreon giveaway, Simon. So this is headed your way. And, you know, another thing that's really cool, Simon, is because I know Simon is a huge Thor fan. I know it's not a Thor book, but it's, you know, it's Thor related. So really, really cool, Simon. So congrats to YouTube channel member Ariel Red for winning the YouTube member contest, and to Simon for winning the Patreon only contest. So awesome stuff. Louie, first had your grandchild. Congrats, Louie. That's awesome. Did you just find out right now while we were live? But that is awesome. I hope I still have a few more years before I could say the same thing. I want to get to Tony's comment. He get a thank you, Tony, for the super chat. So much. This is an awesome question. Chris, I wanted to know your thoughts on the rule changes for next year for MLB. No more shift, larger bases, time clock on pitchers. Oh my God. Oh, Tony, if I still drank, I'd have to tip one back real quick before I answer that. So I'm just going to tip some water back here real quick. This guy, Rob is absolutely killing me. Like, I feel like Rob Manfred, whatever, however you say his last name. I feel like he needs to teach or he needs to coach T-ball. He needs to go be the president of of Little League T-ball or something. Look, I'm going to pick one thing out here. The bases. I think the bases are going to be about 3 inches in a square dimension larger. So I think that's technically about what is that? A half inch on each side wider. So I forget the actual. Just say the base is 13 by 13 by 13 by 13. It's going to be like 14.5 by 14.5 by 14, something like that, right? I'm not mad at that. And I heard about why they're doing it. It's going to give runners a little bit of extra space, like if they're sliding into the base. Hopefully there's going to be less injuries around the base path. I can understand. Keep in mind, back in the days, the bases were a little more puffy, right? And they were a little bit more higher, and I do believe a little softer on the top. The bases, the material alone has evolved. I'm not mad about them, widening the bases just a little bit. It's still going to be 90 feet between each base. That's okay. Right. But the dumbest rule ever was starting the extra inning with the runner on second. That even with these new ones this year, that was the dumbest one ever. I heard that they're getting rid of that after this year. I don't know if that still stands. I can't believe it. Dude, are we playing T-ball? The pitch clock. I'm done, man. I'm done. Look, if you want a game that's timed, go watch football. Go watch basketball. Go watch hockey. The thing that made baseball so great is that the only thing that influenced the game was the skill of the players playing the game. You have to work to get those outs, period. And you played until you have the ability to score the runs and get those outs. Why do we need a clock? This idea of shaving a game by 20 minutes, the games are too long. If a baseball game is too long, then you shouldn't be watching baseball in the first place. The point of baseball is to be able to sit and listen to the cadence of the game. It's not this super high rushed, boom, 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 like basketball and football. How many people here? We know how expensive it is to go to a game these days. A hot dog is $12 freaking. A beer's $20. Parking is $60. And a ticket, to the freaking, the nosebleed sections are $100. Who has paid a ticket or paid money to buy a ticket to a baseball game to say, oh man, I hope I can leave out of there as soon as I can? I want to spend money to go to a baseball game and be there as long as I can to experience it. I don't want to leave early. That's like going to the Kendrick Lamar concert or a Lady Gaga concert or Beyonce concert and saying, all right, Beyonce, keep this concert to 60 minutes because, I need to get home. You just paid $200 to go see Beyonce and you're like, nah, Beyonce, cut it at 60 minutes. I don't want to hear all your hits. I can't deal with it. 60 minutes is good. Nah, I want to be up in there for 2 hours seeing Beyonce or Rihanna do their goddamn thing. Oh my goodness. No more shifts. Like, look, I'm not a fan of people doing the shifts so much to such extreme. I'm not. I'm going to be honest. I'm not. But I'm not against people doing it. I don't think there should be a rule that says you can't do it. I don't think it should happen as much and as extreme, as it does. But I'm going to tell you what, if you start changing things, even if it's a bunt every time the shift, bunt it, because you'll always win. Well, not always, but the majority of the time you'll win with the bunt. They'll stop doing it. Time clock on pitchers is a joke just to save like 5 to 10 seconds, 30 seconds a batter. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. I want to see what you guys are saying. Emmett Blake. Oh, that's awesome, Louie. Right on. The problem is that everyone is leaving to watch other sports. Peter, I have something to say about that. Stop deadening the ball. Stop deadening the ball. And like there's stop not allowing these pitchers to pitch 8 innings anymore. It's not shortening the game. It's making the game more exciting. I'm going to tell you, Bud Selig and now Rob Manfred, they are so scared because of what they did, the tarnish that was left from the steroid era, because they wanted to sell the game instead of like keeping it in check. Well, let's do steroid tests. Now, they knew what was going on and they milked it. Now, they're so scared in that they think shortening the game is what's going to drive people back to it. They think that we're copping out because we can't sit and watch it so long. No. We don't care that the games are now 3.5 hours instead of 3 on average. We care that nobody's hitting 300 anymore. Nobody's hitting 40 home runs anymore, hardly. If a pitcher has a no-hitter, they're getting taken out in the 7th inning. These are the things that are turning people off from the game. Your superstars are hitting 20 home runs a season and are hitting 240. But at the same time, your pitchers are they can barely keep under a 4.0 ERA. That's why. That's what needs to change. It's like saying, how do we get dope out of the hood? Well, lock them up. Is that solving the problem? Nope. I hear you, Dan. Yep. Gave up baseball in the 90s when it became more of a business than a sport. I mean, everything it has to be a business, you know. It has to be a business, but you definitely got to balance that. Rob lives on. I have a ton of sports cards. That's empty. Oh. Bobby Bonds. Home run leaders from 1969. Willie Mack, Hank Aaron, and Lee May. Stadium Club, Willie. The smell of sports cards, just like the smell of comic books, right, guys? What do we got in here? What do we got in here? Got some football, some Upper Deck. What is this? 91 Upper Deck football. Aha. Nolan Ryan, one of my favorite pitchers. I need to do a one of my favorite pitchers of this era, Mad Bum. Madison Bumgarner. Name my cat Madison after him. How about a Greg Maddux second-year card? At third year, technically. All right, you guys are bringing me back now. Pulling this out. Wow. Wow. Anyways, guys, good stuff. Here we go. Here we go. The man himself, Jackie. So, yeah, guys. What was the question? Do you collect sports cards and send them in to get graded? I've never sent in sports cards to get graded myself, but I do have a 10.0 Barry Bonds rookie card graded. I know they got to start teaching the bunt again. Ha ha ha! Aaron Judge has entered the chat. Yeah, I hear you about the Yankees, but you got to give it to Judge, man. Aaron Judge is killing it, man. Hey, who's rooting for Albert Pujols to get 700 home runs, man? I really hope this guy gets 700 home runs. I like going to games, and my dad watches every game of the Indians, Ohio, Cleveland here, but I don't feel I have that time. I just got into football about 7, 8. I got to tell you, man, I mean, football is just really fun to watch. It really is. The great thing with baseball, though, and I'm blessed being a Giants fan and having the Giants games. I don't know how familiar all you guys are with Kruk and Kite, you know, their announcement team, but they are just two of the best in the business, man. And like when I can't sleep, I put the replay. I put the Giants game replay on in the background, and I fall asleep to them. It's like a lullaby, man. There's something just about the cadence of the game and hearing them talk and the calls and the crack of the bat and all that, man. And I'll always be a lover of baseball. Yeah, he's pushing for that Triple Crown for sure. Yep, Nolan Ryan, man. What a G. And he did it into his 40s, too. Raising him. Gaby, batters take way too long to get to the batter's box. I like what they did about saying, like, you can't fully step out of the box with each pitch. But I don't know if they kept that going. I wasn't too mad about that one. I wasn't too mad about that at all. I would, Dan, I would agree with you about radio. Hank Greenwald was the radio guy. And I'm going to tell you a story. You know, when I remember as a kid, when my dad used to take us to Candlestick when we could. In the we had an old Oldsmobile station wagon. Yeah, wood grain. Old Oldsmobile wood grain station wagon. And we used to, go to the game at Candlestick. And on the way home, going over the Cypress Freeway, going through San Francisco, hitting over the Cypress Freeway on the other side in Oakland. That actually fell during the 1989 earthquake. We used to listen to Hank, the post-game show with Hank. And that was such a part of the experience. And I'll always remember that. And I always hear Hank's voice. I'll never forget that. That was such a very important part of those memories that I hold dear, Cal Ripken was one of my favorite players growing up. Did I tell you the story about how I had an amazing 6th grade teacher? Before I became a juvenile delinquent, I was actually a good student in school. And I had a teacher, Mr. Baum, Ralph Baum. He was originally from Chicago. Big baseball head. He used to read us baseball stories in class. He had a book. With addresses that you could write to like baseball and football players and stuff. And he let me borrow it. And I would write. I wrote to Dwight Clark. And Dwight Clark sent me back an 8x10 photo of the catch autographed by him. Bless his soul. Rest in peace, Dwight Clark. And I wrote Cal Ripken Jr. And I got sent back a postcard of Cal Ripken Jr. signed by him. And I wrote back a thank you letter. And in return, I get this package. And it had like a stack of Cal Ripken signed autograph postcards. It had a couple of baseball cards. What else did it have? It had like I think it had like an Orioles pin. It was like just a goodie packet of a whole bunch of stuff. I think I still have most of it, if not all of it. And I just thought that was really, really cool, man. That was really cool. Awesome, man. Awesome. I grew up in New Hampshire, went to Fenway. I want to go to more stadiums, man. That's one of my bucket lists. I've only been to Coliseum in Oakland, Candlestick, AT&T Park, Pac Bell, AT&T Oracle Park, whichever one you want to call it now. It's the Giants' new stadium. And I've been to Coors Field. That's it. Coors Field, Candlestick, AT&T Park, and the Coliseum. I want to go to as many parks as I can. I want to go. Wrigley Field is number one. Wrigley Field is number one. And then Fenway, of course. From there, I'm going to go to PNC in Pittsburgh. I think that's one of the most beautiful stadiums. PNC in Pittsburgh. I really like the Braves' new stadium. I want to go to them all, man. I want to go to them all. One day. We'll see. Turner Field. Yep. All right, guys. Oh, yeah, Jack Murphy. I wish I could have gone to Old Comiskey, man. Oh, man. Yep. I'm just, man. You know what's sad to think about? That in the 60s and 70s, they tore all these classic parks down. Most of them. Some of them lasted, right? And then they got tore down like in the 90s and out. They tore all these down to build coliseums, like mega football stadium coliseums, thinking that, oh, we need to maximize money. And then they realized getting into the 90s that, well, let's, quality over quantity. And then they started shrinking the fields, shrinking them again, and building the experience instead of just having these massive, ugly coliseums. And I'm like, you fools, you should have never tore down the original stadiums. Anyways, guys, it's been really, really fun. Oh, man, Dan, Tigers. Yeah, that's another one for sure. Thank you guys for being here on this kind of a special Friday Night Live. Answer questions from my patrons and just hanging out with you guys. Thank you all so much. Again, to the winners, Simon, Ariel Red. I hope Ariel Red sees this and hits me up. But thank you guys so much again. We're taking Sunday off from Comic Book Canon. I'll have some videos up, of course. Keep supporting the channel, guys. I appreciate you. Remember, hit the notification bell, click the likes, help with those algorithms, drop your comments. I still try to read almost every single comment that I could possibly get to. And I'm doing my best here, man. Like I said, I took on another job. I'm basically working like 4 jobs now because I got my educator job. Now I'm taking the part-time sports director assistant job, selling comic books, doing the YouTube full-time. Yeah, it's a lot, guys. But I want to keep being here to, provide content that you guys deserve and to be a part of the community for sure. So you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. I hope you guys have a good, safe weekend. Be good to yourselves. Be good to others. And until next time, peace.